Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie. If you are someone like me who likes to be inspired by other brands that we see at Sephora, on Instagram, at Ulta, but yet you want to stay loyal to Seint, then I think this video is going to be for you. And if you're someone that is not familiar with Seint Beauty, then come along because you're going to find out how awesome this brand is. Today I thought it would be interesting, since I am just so obsessed with Urban Decay lately, to take one of my favorite Urban Decay palettes and translate these colors into a personally curated palette of Seint eyeshadow. So here I have collected some of my Seint eyeshadows that are in the warm family and tried to replicate the collection of colors that we see in the Naked Heat palette. If you want to know how to get this gorgeous Naked Heat inspired look today, come along. We're going to get started right now. Come get ready with me. To start off our Seint makeup application, let's go in with the Seint Plush Prep Mist. This spray is going to help prime your skin for the Seint cream makeup. It's going to press this into the skin, just like so. And I notice when I use this product, my Seint makeup just goes on so much better. I believe this product has caffeine in it to waken the skin, very soothing hyaluronic acid. It's a beautiful product. I highly recommend this. I have just cleaned my brushes after Lord knows how many months of not cleaning these brushes. They are absolutely white and clean and beautiful, and I've had a lot of these brushes for like 4 years. Seint brushes are absolutely gorgeous. I just recently talked myself out of getting more brushes. I was actually looking at other brands and I just could not find a brand that had these double-ended brushes with the gold like these. But here is the brush cleaner that I use. This is actually our Seint brush cleaner. It is so easy to use. You're just going to run your brush into warm water and then use the brush on the bar of soap inside the cup that it comes with. There's also a little nubby pad, a silicone pad that you can rub your brushes on, and it helps remove the extra makeup. Now, the longer you wait to clean your brushes, the deeper cleaning and the more time you're going to have to give each brush underneath the warm water. So I've curated some colors in my Seint palette. This is one of my favorite Seint palettes. I believe this design is still available. It does have this beautiful raised gold logo, and it's just really beautiful. And this is a 3-tier palette, so I am going to place products in this as we go. They also make a 2-layer version of this. So you can see here that I've curated a warm selection of eyeshadows for today's video. The highlight shade that we're going to use today is Amber. I'm going to put that in the areas where I need coverage. The brush that I'm going to use for application is one of my favorite brushes. This is the Pilot brush. This is a fantastic brush for getting that airbrushed full coverage look without getting too heavy. We're going to go into the shade Amber here with the doe foot side of the brush, just to kind of build coverage over the areas that need the coverage. This brush is very similar to our 3D brush. We're going to go in with the other side of this brush at the end of application and smooth everything out. But just right now I'm placing, this is a very quick application method. Just kind of use this brush just to apply and then airbrush at the end. This is going to cover redness. This is going to cover dark spots. You don't want to go with a color that's too light. You can see that color is a really good match. Now I'm going to go in with the color Aura. So Amber was my full coverage shade that's going to blend closest to my natural skin color. And Aura is going to be a couple of shades lighter. So I'm going to go in with the Aura. And I'm just going to go underneath the eyes And I have been taking really good care of my skin lately. My eye area has been moisturized prior to coming on camera. I also used an eye mask from Peter Thomas Roth that's going to help with puffiness, dark circles. So my eye area can handle the Seint cream makeup underneath my eyes. But some of you guys might not be taking as good of care of your skin, and you might want to look into the color correcting lineup, because that's going to be a little bit more forgiving on the eye area. You can see how that kind of brightened everything up. Just give me coverage. I have not blended anything yet. I've used that doe foot full coverage side of my pilot brush to apply the colors where they go. Now I'm going to go right to my contour, the color Ash. So I have my contour, which is a cooler color, and then my bronzer right here. I'm going to go into Ash with this detail brush. This is a great brush for contouring. It is a wedge shape, which is going to give you those angles that you're looking for when contouring. So I'm just going to come right across the cheekbone. I don't like to start too low, because then you're going to drag your face down. This is going to really give the face lift. And I just have to say, after trying, you know, contours from other brands, I have to say that Seint has something very unique. Their contours are dedicated contours. They're not bronzers, and they are stiff, meaning that they're going to last long on the skin, and they're truly cool. Now they have launched newer shades which are more warm and more cool, so they have a lot of different colors for you to choose from. And again, I'm just throwing this on because I know that I'm going to go back and blend at the end. Okay, now I'm going to use the angled side of the brush again to go along the side of my nose. And this is really what attracted me to Seint, was this brush and their contour products, because I noticed that I had never used contour before, and looking at pictures of me from back in the day, I wasn't contouring and my face just looked very flat, very dry, and the contours in this line just really add beautiful, beautiful glow and dimension to the skin. I'm going to flip my brush over to this side, and I'm going to go in and just have fun contouring and shaping my eye crease. And you can definitely see everywhere that I put this product. We're just gonna let these products marinate before we go in and blend. So I'm gonna kind of blend and airbrush everything into the skin. I'm gonna use this blush and bronzer brush to get that airbrush look. So what we're gonna do is start with the under eye area and the insides of the face first, just pressing that in and blending. It's gonna give you that airbrush finish. Don't move the brush too much on the nose, because we want to retain those contoured areas. And then definitely come underneath the jaw area. And now at this point, we can add a little bit of bronzer just to tie everything together. Today I'm going to use Bella bronzer. I'm going to use the large side of my brush, and we're just going to apply this up high. And this is just going to kind of unify the look. Everything is blended together. And it's also going to give you that sun-kissed glow to your skin. You want to start with this beautiful complexion before adding any eyeshadows. I'm going to come down the neck. It looks gorgeous. I just go right over the brows, onto the forehead. Now, if you're heavy-handed, you might want to use something like a beauty blender or our Seint Perfector sponge, which I love. And the Seint Perfector sponge is going to get slightly larger than the beauty blender. So you want to dampen these and squeeze out the excess water, roll them onto a cloth or your hands. You want it to be cool to the touch, but not wet. And you're just going to go in and just kind of press everything in. So this is great if you are heavy-handed or just want further longevity from your makeup, because this is going to press it into the skin. It's not going to be sticky anymore. So these are great with this makeup. Now you may notice I have a blemish. So this would be something that would be better covered up with our Seint correctors, and we'll do that towards the end if it's still distracting. My lips are really dry, so I'm going to go in with the Seint Lip Whip product. This is a very moisturizing lip balm, very thick, and I notice a lot of our Seint artists use it in their videos, but we're just going to put a little bit of this on. And we're going to let that kind of soak into our lips and moisturize before we get to the lips. For the brows, I am going to use our Seint Silk Pencil in Cappuccino. This is going to be very long wearing, budge proof, great for eyeliner, great for lip liner, great for brows. Would not use it as a contour because it's not going to stay blendable for very long, but I'll just show you this color right there. And we're going to use this on the brows. We go directly on the hair and onto the skin, and we have a brush handy to smooth out the product. And you're going to have brows that will not budge. They'll be there all day long. And it even has like a waxy property to the pencil. So it's great for kind of lifting your hairs. You can see how that kind of lifts the hairs. And this is going to work so much better than using our contour products, which are not going to be as long wearing. Just love the waxy property of this. Really lifts the hairs. And I have such full brows right now. I don't normally have full brows like this. And then before I put it in the cap, I'm just going to kind of rub this just a little bit to get rid of any dried product. That way the next time I use it, it'll be nice and fresh. A trick to get rid of the long wearing budge proof pencil off your hands, you'll want to spray some of our Seint brush cleaner onto a microfiber pad, and then you can rub it off and it'll be gone. So for the eyes today, I thought I would be inspired by my Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I have been really loving revisiting the Urban Decay brand. You know, it's time to kind of see what else is out there besides Seint. It's good to go out into the Sephora realm, to the Ulta realm, and just kind of see what other brands are doing so that you stay current. Although this is an older palette, it's one of the iconic palettes that Urban Decay sells. And it's just a gorgeous array of warm shimmer and matte shadows. and it looks great on my eye color. It makes my brown eyes look hazel. Well, I have been loving using this. I just thought, let me see if I can recreate the look that I get with the Urban Decay Heat palette with my Seint eyeshadows. Seint eyeshadows are going to be a lot more creamy, powdery feeling. These are a little bit stiffer and there's less fallout I find with the Urban Decay, but the Seints are going to give you that punch of color and shimmer that a lot of people really enjoy. Although we will not use all of the shadows that I have here, I am going to attempt to recreate the look. The Seints have a lot more grit to them. Their shimmers are chunky, but they're just very buttery and shimmery. Here is a shimmer from Urban Decay. I'm just gonna do that on my finger and then kind of swatch it. Let's do it right here. Urban Decay. And then here is a color that's shimmery from Seint. All right. And the Seint definitely have similar quality, but they are a little bit more buttery smooth. But I would be nitpicking if I said that there was a lot of difference between the two. So normally I would start with a color such as Low Blow here, or this one here, which I think is called Sauced. And these would be in my crease. I would use them as a transition shade. Today I'm going to reach for Seint's Valencia color. And I'm going to use our Seint eyeshadow brush. It's double-ended. I'm going to use this fluffy side of the brush here into the Valencia. And we're going to go into the crease. So remember, I use my Seint cream makeup on my lids, so they should already have a nice layer of cream, which is going to help these shadows last longer, although I don't normally have problems with Seint eyeshadows lasting. So right off the bat, Seint has amazing quality eyeshadows. So this is just going into the crease and kind of fluffing onto this bone here and a little bit down onto our lower lid. And the shade's color, again, is Valencia. Now I'm going to go into Tawanda for a little bit of pink. It's good to not go overboard with too much orange or too much brown. You want to kind of mix it up. Now I could totally use a brush with this because Seint eyeshadows, shimmer or matte, work good with a brush, unlike some other brands where the brush doesn't work on the shimmer. But I'm just going to use my finger just so this goes on just very, look at that. Look at the payoff on the Seint shadows. It's just amazing. I'm just going to place it where I want it first with my finger. Now the nails do make it a little bit hard to get it exactly where you want it. So at this point, I would go to my eyeshadow brush that I used previously and go in and just kind of blend that out a little bit without dipping back into the product. That's totally enough. They're just so smooth, so wet looking. And the color that I use, again, is Tawanda. And that just really brightens the eye. I've got this little chamois here, this little microfiber cloth that I like to wipe my brushes on between colors. I could really do it all with this brush. Now I'm going to create a tight line underneath my lash line to really make my eyelashes look darker. And I'm going to spray my brush with our Seint Fixate setting spray. This is a makeup setting spray. You can use it at the end of your makeup application, or you can spray it on your brush. Today I'm going to use the Etch brush, which has a square end on one end and then it has this domed brush on the other. We're going to go into the square end for the tight lining, and I'm just going to choose a corner to wet, because I don't want to do this over the entire eyeshadow pan because it'll alter the application if used dry. And we're just going to wiggle that and kind of rake up onto the lashes just a little bit, just to give like a little bit of darkening of the lashes as well. I always tightline before doing any smoky shadows. And you can kind of see the difference there that makes. Because it is a paste that you're applying. The eyeshadow turns into a paste. Now I'm gonna go into the color Holly. A lot of these shades have been discontinued, but the point of this video is to show you the capabilities of the eyeshadows from Seint versus Urban Decay. So I can always recommend colors that are similar, but I'm gonna use the shade Holly in my crease with the eyeshadow brush. We're gonna go right into the crease, but not anywhere on the lower lid. So this has to really be above the crease. So I'm turning my head just so that I can see what this looks like from the side. It's always good to see kind of a side view and where you're applying that shadow, because I have kind of a hooded eye and I really want to open up my eye as much as possible. And I think it's just such a shame that a lot of these reddish tones have been discontinued, because they're very pretty. And this is definitely reminding me of the Urban Decay Naked Heat. Now I'm not going to blend anything because I'm going to use a transition shade right on the edge of that shade to kind of blend onto my brow bone. All right, I've cleaned my brush and now I'm going to go into the color Havana. I'm going to use that on the edge of the last color that I applied, just to kind of diffuse that. We don't want to take it all the way up to the brow bone. Now I'm going to go into the color Revival. This is a dark brown color, and we're going to use this with our Seint double-ended on point brush, and we're going to spray it with our Fixate setting spray so that we can get a cream liner. We're going to go into the top portion of the palette. We're in a nice rich brown tone. So this is a nice alternative to black. Kind of flick it up at the end like a wing. Use my fingernail just to kind of sharpen that wing. That's a little trick for you. That nail trick is super awesome. It really works. And that acts as a beautiful liner. We're gonna clean our brush. Go with the clean on point brush and go back into Revival, but go into the powder corner, the corner that I did not get wet. And we are gonna create kind of a cut crease look, a very sharply defined lid space and crease. So I'm gonna move in and I'm just gonna go right in to the crease with this thin line of the Eternal. And I do this at the end so that we already have colors laid down so it looks very blended. And the crease is just defined. See how that makes my lid look larger because it pushes it back even further. Gonna go back into the Revival and do the other side. So again, we want to be careful not to go anywhere onto our lower lid space because that is what we're trying to make look larger. Using a clean on point brush, I am going to go into Tawanda again and make sure to apply that directly underneath the Eternal. The more contrast between the lid color and that crease color, the larger your lid will be. So it's important when you have small eyes or hooded eyes is that it's important that you use smaller brushes when you're creating these details. If you get brushes that are too large for your eye shape, it's gonna really swallow the eyelid space. So it's good to use things like the On Point brush and the Seint eyeshadow brush, as those are smaller brushes. Comparatively, we have the smudge brush, which is a much larger brush and much more suited for people with a larger eye. Now I'm going to use this color called Crimson. It's a deep red, and I'm going to use that in this space here to connect the two, the crease and the liner. I'm going to use my On Point brush again, which is a really nice detail brush for working in these small spaces. And we're just going to place it right here. Right in that corner. You can really see my eyes just transforming to that hazel color when I use this. I'm gonna pop on some magnetic eyelashes and then I'll be right back. Now I'm gonna go into this beautiful color called Soulmate, and I'm gonna use this in the inner corner of my eye and on the waterline. And I'm going to spray my brush once again with the Fixate setting spray to wet that up. And then we're going to use it into the Soulmate to create that paste. Now remember, you want to go along the top of the pan so that we don't mess the eyeshadow up. And I'm going to start on the waterline first, and let's see if we can get that to work, just to give a little shine there. And it is really pretty. It just kind of glistens along. That is so pretty. It really opens up the eye, but of course we're going to use something dark directly underneath it. And it works so well on the waterline. And this On Point brush is fantastic. Now we're gonna go into the inner corner. You're gonna really see that there. It's gorgeous. And I have not resprayed my brush. We're just gonna create a nice little highlighted area there. So Soulmate eyeshadow, one of our faves here at Seint. Just outstanding beauty. I don't even think there's anything like this in the Urban Decay palette. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I might even do a trail of this right on top of that brown, just to further the contrast. Now I'm gonna go into this color Ginger, and I'm gonna go directly underneath the waterline that I just created using my On Point brush. Let's go ahead and use the setting spray with this color. It's just got a lot of particles in it that need to be wetted to avoid that fallout. And now I'm going to go back to Eternal and just do a little bit of wiggling between the lower lashes prior to mascara. I'm going to use the Dior Overcurl in black mascara because I currently am out of my Seint mascara, but I do love the Seint mascaras. My favorite Seint mascara is the Lash Velvet. The Lash Velvet is the volumizing mascara. I like that one. So we're just going to apply a little bit of the Dior on the bottom lashes. One of our brushes that we make, which I really love for the bottom lash hairs, is the lash brush. It has this fan on the end, and on the other end it has a bullet tip brush, which is great for smudging on the bottom. But you can just kind of take this and just kind of take a little bit of mascara onto the end of this fan, and then you can use this to kind of do your lower lashes, and it works really well. I find that it finds even the smallest of hairs. Just kind of a genius idea, and at the same time it kind of lines and defines. Once you kind of stamp into that lash line, it kind of lines and defines. Just do a little bit of that on there. Okay, so that looks beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And then I'm going to go in with this Claire eyeshadow, which I feel will look really good underneath the Ginger shimmer. I'm going to use the other side of the lash brush here to go into Claire and kind of get some diffusing here. I love a nice soft transition on the bottom of your eye. And of course, we're going to clean up this area with a little bit of concealer or color corrector just to clean it up. I think Seint brand makeup has such an opportunity to inspire creativity amongst their artists and customers, but we don't really see a lot of color stories launched and things like that, which I think that they have an opportunity to do, and it would really help boost sales if they came out with color stories like the other brands come out with color stories. So an example would be Dior. Every spring and fall and summer, they come out with a curated collection of eyeshadow colors that have to do with the runway. We have lines like Makeup by Mario, Natasha Denona. They're all coming out with selections that go along with the current trend. So I love seeing my eyeshadows like this. I think this will be a lot more user-friendly than having them all together. So this is going to be my official Seint Naked Heat palette that I'll go to when I want to wear warm colors. And then similarly, I also have a palette with all neutral, cool colors that I can reach for. This is my neutral palette. And then I also made a bronzy gold palette. So this is all my colors that are kind of bronzy and gold. So just, you know, doing something like that would entice people to purchase, you know, having these curated collections of shadows. It helps with people that are not as creative with eyeshadow application. They need a little help. Now we're going to start cleaning up the eye look. I'm going to go underneath the brow, and I'm going to go into my under eye area with our Seint color correctors. The Seint color correctors are going to be based on complementary colors. So where you see redness, you would use something with a green undertone. Where you see purple, you would use something with yellow. So Seint is slightly different in that what you're seeing is not really what you're seeing. For instance, if we are seeing dark circles, that's usually an excess of red in the skin, which translates to purple. If we're seeing a blemish that is kind of red and inflamed, that's usually an excess of purple, or that would be an excess of blue, so you would use orange. So there's a different kind of color theory with Seint products that I'm not going to get into today, but based on my experience with our color correctors, the most popular shades are going to be 01, which I have here. So 01 is a really good color correcting shade. And then also R01 is a good shade, and 03 as well. So today I'm going to go for R01, which is right here. And I'm going to use that to correct. So I'm going to use our Seint spot brush. This is especially made for our cream correctors. It has a fluffy end and a very precision point end, similar to the On Point brush. But I'm going to go into the R01, and I'm just going to kind of carve out an under eye area here, directly underneath my brow. I'm going to do that on both sides. Then I'm also going to come underneath my eyeshadow here. And these color correctors are wax based, so they're going to stay put. I'm going to use this side just to kind of airbrush everything. You only put this where you're correcting, so just in the inner corner. That's all we need. It really airbrushes and brightens, as you can see. So this is going to help with blue and darkness underneath the eyes. R01. So dark shadows. And now I'm going to take this side and just, I'm going to kind of pinch it just a little bit, because the brush is just a little bit soft and I need it to firmly diffuse. Look how beautiful that looks right there. So again, I have to just pinch it ever so slightly. Gives me a really fine-tuned brow area and really softens and diffuses everything. We can also take this color down the center of the nose for a beautiful glow. It just kind of pronounces your highlight there. We can also take this above the brow. We can also use our multitasking brush, which is probably better for the job of blending this because it's a little bit stiffer. And yes, this is much better for this area. But for this area, which is very delicate, I do like the Spot Brush's fluffy brush. But for this area, I like the multitasking brush. And this is usually a brush that I use on my lips. Use this color right on top of the lip. I just love our color correctors. They're so nice. And then also on the middle of the chin. And this blemish here, I'm going to use the Y01, which is great for blemishes. I'm going to use the other side of my multitasker brush just to kind of address this blemish. And we want to just put it right on the spot. It's just disappeared, hasn't it? And it's gone. Looks great. I love it. This also works great around the nose. Like if you have redness around your nose, you can use that. So the eyes are all done. Now we're gonna finish up the face. A really good color that we could place inside of my Seint palette is the color Frenchie. This is gonna complement our look so beautifully. And you can see how we can customize everything. And I'm going to use doe foot side just to kind of pick up a little bit of the color onto my brush. And then I'm going to apply it on both sides. With Seint blushes, you're going to find a lot of pigmentation. They're just like no other. The creams are fabulous. They're so beautiful. Now, Frenchie is a satin shade, so it's going to be mostly airbrushing and matte, similar to the Dior Forever cream blushes that come with the wand. It's very similar to that. It's just a very airbrushed look. If you want a little bit of sheen, you can go into our icers, are very beautiful. And a very popular shade would be the rose gold. We'll pop that into our palette. So I'll just take a bit of this on my finger. As you can see, it's a gold. Just gonna apply it right on the highest part of the cheeks. And just kind of pat it in because the brush is gonna remove it. These are very, very subtle. And they work well over the satin blushes. It just gives a glow. But the makeup already has a glow. It's just gorgeous. Now let's do some lips with this look. So I'm going to use our satin lip pencil in Mulberry to create definition on my lips. And then I'm going to follow with our Seint lip oils. These are so beautiful. And this is the color Cocoa. And now we're going to go into the Cocoa lip gloss over the top. And we're just going to diffuse So the lip oils are very sheer, so if you're wanting to use something to kind of lighten the mulberry, you might want to go with one of our lip glosses. Those are a little bit more full coverage, and I think that might be what I will do because I think this is absolutely gorgeous, this color, but I was really hoping for something a little bit more subdued. So let me try that. Let's go into Seint gloss. This is a beautiful shimmery coral color. It's kind of similar to NARS's Orgasm, and we're just going to use this over the top just to kind of give it more of a frost. The look I'm going for. Less plum, more corally red. La Cienega is just such a gorgeous color. I'm going to take the fluffy side of the detail brush from earlier. I'm going to go into my Vanilla Dust powder, and we're just going to kind of clean up some of the shine on my face. This brush is really good for getting inside the pan. The pans are very narrow, and sometimes the larger brushes kind of make it difficult to get in there. So this is a good brush for doing your powder. And I like to go right up the forehead. You can also kind of blend out the area above your brows. You can kind of lock in that contour on each side of your nose. So to set our makeup, I'm not going to use the Seint Fixate setting spray because the spray is very sharp. It doesn't give you that fine mist for setting the makeup at the end. I do like it for my brushes, like making a cream out of a powder shadow. But for the ending product, for setting my complexion, I'm going to use the Urban Decay All Nighter Matte formula because Seint is very glowy already. We really don't want to add any more shine, so I'm just going to shake this and I'm going to spray all over my face, and this is going to help your makeup stay all day. Urban Decay has some of the best setting sprays in the business. Yes, they have reformulated the spray, but I have found that these sprays are just as good as the original. All right, guys, this is the finished look. What do you guys think? Very Naked Heat palette. So here is the palette that we use today from Seint. Naked Heat palette, and you can see how the colors that I've used on my eyes, they really remarkably resemble the Naked Heat palette. Well, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm doing all these videos for you, showing you wonderful content. Let's help me out by liking and subscribing, guys. It makes it worthwhile to know you're watching. These videos take an extra long time to do because of the editing process. I have a family. So if you want to see more videos, please subscribe, please like. We will catch you next weekend with more content. We'll probably go over my other palette featuring the cooler eyeshadows or more neutral shadows from Seint. Well, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Bye!